Hello, everybody. Natalie Cutler-Welsh here. This is the Up Your Brave live stream series. Welcome to the wrap-up episode. We've been going ever since day one of lockdown, and I'm super excited to bring you such amazing guests, really my friends, my peers, my colleagues that have expertise to offer in all the areas that we're covering. And the real goal here is collaboratively to raise the state, massively raise the state of resilience, health, and happiness in New Zealand, but also on a global scale. We've covered topics ranging from resilience to leadership, to parenting, and everything in between. Visibility, business, you name it, we've talked about it. So if you haven't seen all the episodes, you can check them out, nataliecutlerwelsh.com/video series. I will put the link in all the places. And today, I think it's pretty fitting that we're gonna wrap up talking about love. We're talking about love, we're talking about relationships. So without further ado, let me bring in my gorgeous guests. Here they come. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Yay, I'm so happy to have. We've got Kimberly Sweeney she's a divorce and relationship coach. Hey, Kimberly.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Yay, we've got Jason Borowitz, who's in Michigan, so he's in America. Thank you for making the timing work for us.
I'm pleased to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And we've got Edith Horvath, who's just down the road from me. Hey, Edith, how are you?
Hi there. Wonderful to be here.
Amazing. So you guys, if you're watching us live or watching the replay, go ahead, let us know where you are geographically. Let us know what you're up to, where you are. So I'm in Auckland. As you can hear from my accent, it is Canadian. I love to bring people together from all over the place. So what I'm going to do is kick things off. We're going to hear a little bit of backstory about each of our guests, and they're going to share their insights and tips with us today. So we're going to start things off with Kimberly. And I'll give you guys a bit of backstory. So Kimberly and I have actually been friends. I've been a client of hers. She's been a client of mine. And we are, so we've known each other probably for about 5 years. But yeah. I love the work that you're doing. And I think it's so crucial because, you know, keeping the love alive is not easy. And a lot of people kind of think, you know, who can I talk to that's been through this journey that actually mentors people? And Kimberly does that. So let me give you some backstory. Kimberly is New Zealand's first CDC divorce coach and relationship coach, supporting individuals through the process of separation, divorce, co-parenting, or rebuilding existing relationships to make it work. After going through a divorce many years ago, she recognized the need for support outside of a lawyer or counselor alone. And from there, she's grown this thriving coaching practice, guiding and supporting clients through the varying degrees of relationship status. And her business is called Degrees of Separation. So thank you, Kimberly, for joining us. If you want to elaborate at all on your backstory and then share with us your first tip.
Sure. Thank you. I am by trade of 30 years a beauty therapist, and so I've had my own business for many years. I'm quite entrepreneurial. And as Nat said, I went through my own divorce many, many years ago and had to kind of navigate a lot of that myself as a single parent and trying to co-parent. I came out of the process realizing that we really needed a lot more help than what we got from just the legal side of things. There's a lot of aftermath that we're left to kind of deal with, and there's not a lot of support out there to deal with that. As I say, when there's children involved and you're co-parenting and still in contact with your ex. So after a few years of going through the motions myself and working it out together as parents, I embarked on a course and trained to become a certified divorce coach many years ago, and have since done Gottman relationship coaching and lots of other kind of courses along the way, because I've recognized the different needs and different aspects that my clients need throughout the process, whether it's divorce or separation or working on their relationship or getting into new relationships and how to do it right the next time round, as well as some of my clients are having to go back into the workforce. So I've done career coaching to help them gather up their CVs and get them back out there and ready for new jobs and working. So yeah, I kind of got into it because as a beauty therapist, I work one-on-one with clients, and they were coming to me talking about their own journeys and their own relationships and wanted to meet and help them navigate next steps of making it work or coming to an end of the relationship. And so I thought I need to take this further and actually train and help people. So yeah, that's kind of how it all came about, really.
That is amazing. And I'm sure exactly people do. They tend to open up their hearts and when they're getting their treatments done or their hair or their face or whatever. So what have you, what tips do you have, I suppose, for people that are kind of going through a little bit of turmoil in their relationship?
Yeah, look, I'm a big advocate for trying to keep it together. You know, I understand that there's many relationships that they can't stay together for many reasons, but if you've got young children and things are just a bit rocky, I do explore with clients, like, what have you done to try and make it work? Have you been to counselling and had some couples therapy? Or, you know, we kind of explore all the options. I tend to work one-on-one with my clients, not as a couple. So I've got different experts that I can bring in, like Edith, that can help my clients make it work and stay together and just work on the problems that are, you know, there. So one of my biggest tips is, and we all have heard it, but people don't do it right, is date night. You know, reconnecting and having time as a couple. When you've got young children, it's really hard to find that time and to put that time aside. But even if it's once a month where you get an evening or half a day where you can both go and do something together without the children, it's really important in those early days of parenting. But it's not about just going out and having fun. It's actually having that time together to talk about what's going on for each of you. So often people go and have date night, have loads of fun, you know, come back and just fall back into the same old patterns and nothing's changed, because they haven't actually discussed what the problems are and how they can both help rectify those issues and work on their relationship. So my big tip is to have date night, but spend the first part of date day or night actually talking about what you need from each other, what your wants are, and what you need to bring the relationship back into some kind of more, you know, connection that you both are requiring. And often for women, it's quite different to what men want, and we all know that. So it's how to meet each other's needs so that you can fulfill each other's wants and needs, to put it in place on a daily basis and not forget about it as soon as you fall back into that normal day-to-day life of busyness, of working and juggling children and all of those things. So spend some of date night actually discussing what you want from your partner, how you can both each meet each other's needs and show up for each other, and then pop that knowledge in the back of your mind and really make a concerted effort when you do go back to the household and normal daily life to remember what it is your partner asked of you.
Nice. I love that. I love that because well, everyone knows about date night, that it's important, but giving it a bit of structure. We do that. We go with like a notepad, and we're like a little bit geeky, and we do some mind maps and things like that on some of our date nights. Thank you. Romantic Gestures is commenting that they totally agree, Kimberly. Nice.
Great.
Yeah, that's amazing. So for you guys that are listening, let us know, what have you done on a recent date, or what have you got coming up? I've got a private group, which is my free group, and I do Fun Day Monday. And this Monday, I said, we're talking about love and relationships. Your challenge this week is to just plan something fun for someone you love. You know, if it's your partner or your child or your mom, it doesn't matter. But I think, you know, just making a plan. It doesn't have to be something totally out of the box amazing. It just needs to happen before time ticks by. All right, Jason, let's go to you. I'm super excited to hear some of your insights as well. I know you've done a lot. I know you're a businessman as well, but that's how we know each other. We're both speakers, but I'm excited to hear some of your insights around the love department as well. So let me read a little bit of backstory here about Jason. So Jason is from a company called Better Questions Design. He's a global innovation advisor and speaker who helps Fortune 500 companies, and those who aspire to be, to create marketplace advantages through creativity. He also helps experts convert their expertise into 7-figure businesses. As a husband and father of 3, he's committed to helping leaders excel in work and life, with support of a healthy marriage and parenting being a key to success. Yes, because obviously the relationship, family life, it does overlap with the business performance and all the things. So if you want to expand on your backstory and take us to your first tip.
Absolutely. So my first tip would be to answer these 2 questions about yourself in a relationship. And I ask this of business people too. Of course, the answers end up being a little bit different, but the questions remain the same. And they're these 2 questions. What about me draws people in? What about me pushes people away? if you don't know the answer to those two questions, you're the only one that doesn't know. Right? So it's really important because everybody else is picking up the vibes. Everybody else is seeing stuff that, for whatever reason, sometimes dumb reasons, sometimes wrong reasons, is pushing them away or drawing them in. And being able to be open about yourself, especially with your partner, to say, you know, I'm completely open. If you're perceiving something that's pushing you away, I don't want it to be there. I wouldn't purposely do that. So please tell me. Right? And that gives the other person a lot of freedom to communicate back to you when they might be perceiving something without the danger of, you know, stepping on your toes or it feeling like criticism, because you've given the permission and now they've got like a hook to hang it on, because they can say, well, remember you told me to tell you, here's one of those things. And I don't think you're doing it on purpose, but this is the thing that's happening. Like, it could be a dumb thing like, you don't wash the egg pan good enough and there's always bits of egg left on it, and then I always have to rewash it and it's really grinding my gears. Well, okay, you know what? I can do a better job of washing the egg pan. But then there's other things that are deeper too, like you don't compliment. They're like, ooh, wow, well, I don't feel like I don't. I feel like I say nice things. Like, okay, but if you're feeling that, that's something I got to do something about. So, but being able to open those in really light and fun and maybe nonsensical things that just bother us a bit, but then there's some deeper emotional things too that it can open up. And so that would be my number one tip, is for both partners, get the answer to those two questions about each other.
Love those questions. I wrote them down. And by the way, for those of you watching, we will take the show notes. We will take the notes for you. That's super good. Hey, it's interesting. You know, I talk a lot about empowered languaging, and I wanted your thoughts on this. You know, there's a difference between saying you don't compliment me, and I would say what you want, right? Because my tip is always say what you want. So if you take that and you tweak it and you go, hey, I would love it if you could compliment me some more, or compliment me now and then. And that's so much more empowered. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree with you completely. I think, all I was trying to do is word it how it typically comes out. Exactly. Because from a wounded person comes wounded language. And so you sometimes have to separate the message from the condition of the messenger. So I think you're absolutely right, though. If we're paying attention to ourselves and what we're feeling, and we can say, you know, it would really help me in this way if you could do whatever, if we can not use the word you, I think it goes a long way to helping the conversations go better. So I completely agree. And on the same note with my business stuff, the other point I make is I love that we're talking about love. In business, if I go there, talk about love your customer, you could see, like, if you're a senior executive, like their eyes just start going blank, right? Like they're totally not tuned in to that word. But if I change the word to fascination, say, are we fascinated enough with our customers? Oh, well, now they start leaning in. But scientifically, the same areas of our brain light up if we're fascinated is when we're in love. So are we fascinated with our partners?
And it sounds more appropriate as well in business.
In business, but also like to change that language to say, am I fascinated with my partner? Because now there's something I have to add to it. When I'm saying, am I in love? I'm driven by a feeling that somehow I'm not responsible for.
But also for me, I love this because am I in love? It feels like, well, it's kind of an expectation that I am. Like, it's almost not duty obligation, but it's kind of like you'd hope you would be. But fascination, it's like you said, the eyebrow test. It's like, oh, I haven't really thought about it like that before. So that's another question we can ask ourselves. Am I fascinated? How can I be fascinated by my partner?
Yeah, or how could I become more fascinated by my partner?
Nice. Well, that leads us so nicely into Edit's area of expertise, possibly. So Edit, it's very exciting to have you here. I know that you've got a couple of businesses, and one of them, I'm going to read a little bit of backstory here. After many years of consulting as an organizational psychologist, Edith Horvath qualified in sex therapy and started her private practice, Active SEXLIFE Solutions. So she is highly qualified in human sexuality and loves helping her clients to develop healthy and positive relationships. Let's have a look. Her therapeutic services are for individuals and couples with intimacy and sexual concerns. A wide range of professionals also refer their patients to Edit, which is amazing. What I love is that you guys have this collaboration going on where Kimberly's like, hey, this is not my area of expertise. I'm going to bring in Edit to help her with my clients. And I love seeing that collaboration. So Edit's mission is to help her clients through enhancing communication, relationships, intimacy, and sexuality. That is so amazing. Welcome, Edit.
Thank you so much. And thank you for acknowledging the importance of referring to other specialists, because I am not a specialist in divorce. So I really treasure the fact that Kimberly is there for me to get the additional help, what I don't have, that knowledge, the legal and all that aspect. But Kimberly is just their specialist, great. And the other thing, Natalie, I was really happy that you asked me for this particular issue at this particular time to talk about, because change is one of those things which is constant in our lives. But in the last 6 months, this change accelerated, and we have to face this change sometimes on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, both within ourselves as well as in our partner, in our colleagues. The way we work changed dramatically. And of course, our physical stages, when we are really concerned what's going on, the stress, all that. So the change is all over us. And we need to get used to the idea that this will be part of our normal lives to deal with change. The other thing is relationships. And of course, most of us, when we talk about relationships, think about their intimate partners, our intimate relationships. But number one is our relationships with ourselves. How am I today with myself? How did I get out of bed? How do I want to face the world? How do I want to face myself? And of course, that will influence how I'm going to deal with my intimate partner, with my children, with the neighbor, with my colleague, with my boss, with my staff. All those sort of things are relationships which are essential to know how we are dealing with the changes within those relationships and with ourselves. So my first tip is positive touch. And again, it is, how do I touch myself? When I wash my face, when I wash my back in the shower, when I put my lipstick on, especially you, Jason, how do I look at myself? How do I feel about myself? That has a huge impact on how then we are dealing with the others around us. And people underestimate the positive effect of positive, gentle physical touch, especially first thing in the morning when we wake up to set us up for our day. When we have a hug from our loved one, children, intimate partner, lover, our day starts a lot more positive than if not. And at the end of the day, when we finish our day saying goodbye, again, have that embrace, that hug, that kiss. That is essential. I mean, there's a lot of research to show that when babies are hugged, there's the skin-to-skin contact, they thrive. And the opposite, when they don't, they don't. And the same in elderly, it's essential to have positive touch, not the clinical, I'm checking your blood pressure, but knowing that there is a love component or fascination. I love that, because that connection is very, very important for all of us. And if you don't have a lover at this point of time, you do have your children, you do have your parents, you do have a good friend who could maybe just put their arm around you. So number one tip, positive touch, as many as you can, as long as you can hold that embrace, to make sure that you give and at the same time you receive that amazing effect of endorphins and all those positive hormonal changes. And it feels good.
Yes, completely agree. I'm thinking of myself this morning, chasing my children out the door, like to get a little snuggle before they go. It's interesting. I find I probably am more affectionate with the kids than with my husband in the day-to-day, you know, the kitchen and the living room and whatever. Do you find that, what are your thoughts on that with kids versus their actual romantic partner, life partner?
It's essential to have both. I talk to my couples to reestablish the early morning wake up hug, cuddle, whatever they comfortable with to start with, and at the end of the day when they go to bed, again have an embrace, more skin the better, and say something positive if that's appropriate. So reestablishing that both morning and evening, to know that I am set up for the day because somebody loves me, somebody wants me, and at the end of the day, before you go to bed, you feel the safety of the other person in the same bed with you. But of course, your children, they want to know that you are there for them, and you want that cuddle, because then they grow up and they fly away and live in a different country or city or something, and you can't cuddle them anymore.
Oh, yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to move on to tip number 2. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
I just want to ask Edith, because I'm sure this is on many women's minds listening to this right now, and I hear it from my female clients a lot when they're having trouble with their relationships. You know, I get the physical touch thing, but often females feel like if they initiate any kind of touch like that at the end of the day or beginning of the day when they're still in bed with their partner, that they're expected to take it further, and so they tend to not initiate it because they just want a hug. They don't want to take it any further than that. So what's your advice on how to deal with that?
Creating boundaries and discussing this before you start doing it is essential. Okay. So I always sort of say, when I have a client coming to me without their partner, go home, tell them that this is what the therapist said, and do the conversation not in the bedroom, not in bed. So in another place, to establish that I'd like to have these hugs. I think it would reestablish that closeness physically, but it doesn't mean that we're gonna swing off the chandeliers and have amazing sex. That might happen, but that's a different process. This is for us to show each other our love, our fascination, our closeness to each other.
Thank you.
Love it. And great question, because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering that. So you guys probably know I wrote this parenting book, which is called If Only They Told Me. And part of the reason I wrote it, well, the main reason, was about the keeping the love alive. I was like, no one tells you. Why does nobody talk about how hard it is on the relationship when kids come along? So that was really my main thing. And in the sex chapter, which all the men turn straight to the keeping the love alive chapter, I've got this thing called SMS, which is having a plan. Like one night it's sex, another night it's having a massage, and another night it's sleep. And so you know that that's the plan. So you don't have to like, are we, will we, won't we, do we, don't we? Is this just a hug? Is this more than a hug? So I don't know if that's helpful for people, but you could try doing that. It might be a bit too rigid a plan for some people, but expectation.
Can I comment on that? Can I comment on that, Natalie? Because when I suggest to my couples to plan that evening or that day, because some people prefer having sex during the day, they say, oh, but it's not natural, and how could we do that? And I always sort of say, when you started dating and you knew that you're going to meet such and such on Friday, you planned to have sex. You wanted to have sex. So you spruced yourself up. You did everything. So that was planning, wasn't it? And most people say, oh, hell yeah. It's like, well, it's just a different way to manage that whole process of knowing what's going to happen, and that we're both in the mood or setting up for that space for it.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting. So for those of you that are watching that are bold enough to comment on this particular part of our conversation, let us know to plan or not to plan. We are interested. All right, let's go into round 2. We're going to, any sort of second tip or insight that you want to share around keeping the love alive, love, relationships, specifically during times of change or just any time at all. All right, Kimberly.
I kind of worked a different tip that was more in relation to if you can't keep the love alive. Do you mind if I go down that rabbit hole? Because my main role is obviously if things can't be rectified and people can't make it work, is to then help them amicably separate and do it right from the beginning. So my role as a divorce coach is to kind of work with people on how to, sometimes they want to figure out how to even exit the relationship. So how to do it kindly, and how to do it with still some love, you know, and how to do the right thing for the children. So my tip is around that side of things. And if you are going to end the relationship, then do it with love and with kindness, and utilize the support that's out there these days, whether it be counselling, divorce coaching, a good family lawyer, a good mediator. And those are all different people that I can bring in and help you work through that process with. So it's about doing it collaboratively. I'm a big advocate for doing a divorce and settlement process in a more collaborative fashion with a more family lawyer that works that way, so that you're sitting down together as a couple and working through it with your lawyer. And in that role, it means that you're going to save a lot of heartache and emotion and money doing it that way. And also, probably my biggest tip is doing what's right for the children. And the biggest thing that I find helps people put a good co-parenting plan in place is to actually have a plan. So a parenting plan that you work on together as a couple. If you can't do it together, then work on it with a coach or a mediator, and actually have something structured in place so that the children know what's happening day to day, week to week, and both you as parents know what's happening. And it saves a lot of time and argument, and just helps you settle into that new way of cohabitating in separate homes and still parenting the children, because basically you are going to still both be their parents for the rest of your lives, and you've still got to learn how to get on and communicate and do what's right. So that's my top tip, is that if you end up having to separate, then bring in the experts that are needed to do it right from the beginning. Don't wait till it's all turned to custard and you're in court, because by then it's too late.
Do you find, because I've had a few people who have had this scenario where they're like, oh no, like it's fine, you know, we're just going to separate, we don't need anyone, and it seems fine. And then a few months down the road, it gets really awkward and uncomfortable because they never brought in that third party. Do you see that happen?
Yes, that happened to me, you know, and that's why I became a divorce coach, because sometimes if you're both on the same page and you're amicably going through the process and you both want the same things, and you can work on your settlement agreement yourselves and then just have a lawyer sign it off, that's great, that's ideal. You've saved a lot of time and heartache. But when you've got children, you're still in each other's lives, and it's the co-parenting issues that come up after the fact. Once you're both in separate houses, sometimes in new relationships, there's all these different manner of things that come into effect that actually start to affect it takes a toll on you both emotionally, and then it affects how you communicate with each other. So it's huge. So a lot of people need help after the fact because of that side of it.
Okay, before we move on, or maybe Jason, you might want to comment on this too, but nesting. And I don't know if that's a Kiwi term, but is that something that people are doing where the kids stay in the house and the parents are the ones that come and go?
Yeah, look, it happens. It's more common overseas, but Kiwis are starting to understand that concept. And look, it works fine for the early days when you're not quite ready to sell the family home or make too many changes to the family, but it's a short-term solution. Long-term, with one of your re-partners, you can't be moving new partners in and out of the family home. So for those who don't understand nesting, it's when the kids stay in one home and the mum and dad move in and out and do week on, week off, or what have you. And honestly, it works well when you're in those initial phases of separation and you're finding a new way of cohabitating, but it doesn't work long term generally, unless you've got two houses next door to each other or something, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Jason, let's go to you for your second tip.
So the second thing I would offer is this tip is to explore the problem spaces. So don't try to solve things too quickly. So as a follow up to that, one of the things that has happened about, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, is my wife started feeling real overwhelmed. This is when we were living in New Zealand. We didn't have a lot of family support. We had, well, at that time we had 2 kids, but no help from anyone really. And it was just, for her, 7 days a week. So I had a 5-day week job, but I had 2 days off of mine. She didn't get any days off of hers. And she was starting to feel a real sense of like, I'm totally drained. I have nothing to give. I'm like overwhelmed. And so I got accused of doing consulting on her, but it worked in this case. Sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it did. But I said, well, if we go through like the last month of like appointments and things, and you might have to add some things to the diary to see like how you spent your time. I just want to like see how you spent your time and then highlight it with like pink for the stuff that made you feel drained, green for the stuff that brought life to you, and then maybe yellow for stuff that you just have to do, but you can make it through. Like it's kind of neutral, like dropping letters at the post office. Like it took time, but so we went through that, and she found that like 70% of the things I'm doing are pink.
Right.
Like, well, that would be why you're feeling the way you are. And then when you look at the number of hours too. So let's try to, over the next month, I don't know how it's going to work. I just think, I'm guessing that if 10% or less of your calendar was pink, you'd probably be happy. So let's just try to do that. And well, that would mean I have to cut out this and this and this. Yeah, well, maybe that's what should happen. And then, but what does that then allow for? Like, what does that allow you to add in that would be green, like, running or more me time or whatever. And then we went through the list of chores to go like, what is all the stuff you're doing and what could I do? So like, the list of chores, what do you enjoy doing that you wouldn't like, you don't mind? She's like, I love laundry. I love laundry and folding. I definitely don't want to give it up. I like it. It's cool to do, but I hate cooking. Like, well, actually, I used to be a cook in a restaurant, and I know how to do that. So why don't I, some number of nights a week, 3 nights a week, whatever, and then a couple of days a week, we just don't. We've got a leftover night. We've got a peanut butter sandwiches and popcorn night, and then if I do a couple of nights, so there's only like 2 dinners a week. Then how would that be? Oh, that would be awesome.
It's like game changer.
Yeah, so it's just like not one solution, but it's sort of like, okay, 1% here, 1% there, 1% there. And if you can take away these 1%, it makes it more than a 3% difference, if that makes sense. So, but it took us exploring the problem, not me saying, you've got a problem, let me solve it, or her saying, I've got a problem because you're not helping enough, and we've got to, like, it wasn't jumping to a solution and getting into a back and forth about how to solve it. It was more like, let's just try something and see. And if it fails, well, we're no worse off because we're failing now. So we'll just try something else then. And then the last thing we found out was like, we're still fighting a lot. And what's going on with that? So I just said, well, I'll say over the last 6 weeks, what time of day is it? Like, when do we fight? Like, what do we fight about and when is it? And it always seemed to be between 4:30 and 7:30. And so we made a rule that we don't talk about anything planning related or future related, vacation related, ideas related. 4:30 to 7:30 is only about eating and getting kids in the bath and getting kids in bed.
Present.
And any other communication is like, we have the freedom to say to each other, save it for 8 after the kids are in bed. And that really, like, it didn't eliminate all the fights, but I bet it eliminated 3/4 of them. Because it was simply the fact that you're low blood sugar, you're dealing with kids that are low blood sugar, they're at the end of their rope, we're at the end of the rope. All you want to do is sit down with a wine and not deal with the kids anymore. And now you've got a husband or a wife who's talking about another problem on top of everything else. So you said, well, let's just get rid of all of it. Just wipe the slate clean and just get through, help each other just survive those couple of hours. And then when you can sit down, relax, you've been fed, blood sugar's back up, you're putting yourself setting yourself up for success. So I would say explore the problem space together rather than jumping to solutions.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And the save it till 8. I mean, that's just blinking brilliant. And the highlighting, the colors. At first, when you were like, oh, what do you do with all your time? I'm like, God, don't go there. But you weren't going there. You were highlighting how literally it's like, write down all the things you do. I do that a lot with clients too. It's like, write down everything you do in your business. Now we're going to look at like, what do you want to do? This is my business card. What are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to ditch? And what are you going to delegate? And it's the same thing. We got to bring those strategies. That's what I love about you, Jason. You bring the business strategies into the family relationship. And then they have a plan. It's like, okay, we only are doing the bed, bath, and whatever between 4:30 and 7. Save it till 8. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. So good. All right, Edith, what about you? What's your second tip or insight?
Right. My second tip is really linking to both Jason's and Kimberly's tips, is to focus on your support. And not just focus on your support, but focus on your supports. And that includes yourself. And that might mean to date yourself, to do things which is green for you, linking to what you were saying, Jason. Do stuff which fills your bucket, which makes you feel energized, joyful. And if you're in an intimate relationship, do something together which creates novelty. Because being in a long-term relationship, after a while, you feel that you know everything about the other person. You tried everything together, but you need something new. You need to try something new, learn something together. Go to a new place. If you walk every day, go to a different route. If you cook, maybe try to cook something together, which is a completely new recipe. And it's okay to fail, because do it for the two of you. Do it for fun. Do it for, I like that, fascination. I think I'm gonna steal that from you, Jason. But put the time aside. So, you know, if you know that it's the witchy hour between 4:30 and 7:30 for the kids, that's not the time to try a complicated French recipe to make an amazing new dinner. So no. Create a different time, maybe Saturday afternoon when everything is done, and you could, you know, spend the time to enjoy or fail or laugh, including the touch, because when you do these sort of things, don't forget those natural way of touching the other person. So find those supports from yourself, from your partner, but from others as well. So that could be a good friend, that could be your parents, that could be your boss, that could be a colleague, because you get different supports from different people. So find those different supports to lift your spirit, to lift and allow you to go with the change which is happening for you, for your world, because without support, it's really, really difficult. And I really, really like that, you know, I followed you, Jason, with your process with your wife, because that was wonderful how you guys worked that out. And connect, because that's the idea, to connect with yourself, connect with the individuals in your life who will support you, who will love you, who will give you that energy, what you need to keep going.
To jump and follow on from what you're saying, and I know earlier in the show too, we mentioned like being more resilient and connecting. And well, the reason we want to have those things is because times are hard, and because relationships can be difficult. Like if they were going to be easy, we wouldn't need those things, right? So the purpose is to prepare it in advance of needing it, and so I like I like what you're saying there, is like you build these skills, and then you've got them in reserve for when you need them.
And every day, if we have these connections strengthened in little ways, I make you a cup of tea, or, oh, I know you're behind dinner, I'm just going to quickly peel the potatoes for you, or whatever those small things. The other one is like, oh, thank you. Those small things create those threads which difficult times, difficult days, difficult situation, you could fall back on. Because you have that strength in yourself, in your relationship, to have that and then rebuild again after those challenging times, days, situations which happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting, you know, having been through the COVID experience, for some couples, I mean, Kimberly, you've probably seen this, there have been breakups, right? People have it's been really intense, you know. But I think for some people, it's a time going, you know what? I'm really reflecting on what I what kind of life I want to live, how I want to show up in the world, what do I want to do, be, and have. And so I don't necessarily, I mean, you know, my goal a few years ago was to save 1 million marriages. And then I was like, actually, I don't want to be like a superhero. I just want to empower people to save their own blinking marriage. But I do think that some marriages like are just, you know, they're better off not together. So that is definitely a thing. So it's interesting. It's just an interesting time for people to pause and reflect and go, how do we want to show up as a couple? Or maybe it's time for us to uncouple, you know? So yeah, interesting times. Please, you guys, if you're watching, go ahead and comment. Let us know one action that you're going to take from today, you know, one little nugget that you're going to take and work with, whether it be to pink and green and yellow your list, or whether it be to think about, you know, save it till 8, or to get that little bit of touch as a part of your habit in your daily routine, or maybe to have a chat about planning your bedtime situation. So who knows? Let's see what you're going to take and run with. All right, let's do the final round. This is what's cool about you, what's coming up, and how can we connect online? Kimberly.
What's cool about me, I think it is that I've got quite a good sense of humor, and I bring it into my coaching. So, you know, I have clients that are quite down, you know, and they're probably at their most stressed that they've been in their entire lives when they're contemplating or going through divorce. And so, you know, within reason, I will, you know, make an effort to just brighten their day and bring a little bit of humor in and make them laugh at whatever we can possibly find to laugh about in their situation. Because I've recognized that with empathy and humor, it helps to lighten their load and help them get more focused on moving forward rather than dwelling on the past. So by spending an hour or so with me has actually just turned them around completely and lifted their spirits and given them hope. And so that's what I find quite cool about my style of coaching is in myself, is that I can leave people feeling a bit more positive about a way forward.
Yes, you definitely have that amazing laugh that you do, definitely.
I'm trying to not. What's coming up for me, I'm always doing continued education. As I said, I've just completed before COVID a career coaching course to just help mostly my women clients get back into the workforce. I've got some future courses coming up that were cancelled during COVID, so I'm waiting for them all to be re-established. But yeah, there's always things coming up personally and professionally for me. Life is busy running 2 businesses, but it's good and I enjoy it. To connect with me, there's my Facebook page, which I put a lot of posts on there, mostly articles to just help people. You know, people these days like to do their own research and gather their own data. And so that's where I will post a lot of different articles that might help you depending on where you're at in your relationship, from making it work to, you know, how to deal with difficult people and all sorts of things. And then I also have my website, which I've written a lot of blogs on there to help people just work out where they're at with their particular situation again as well. Things that have happened for me or my clients over time that I've blogged about, just to give people that resource to help them gather their own intel. But that's how you can connect with me. I offer a complimentary 20-minute phone or discovery Zoom call just to explore my coaching and find out whether it's for you or not and how I can help you moving forward. So I think you've attached all my details to the Facebook Live. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Very good. All right. And Kimberly, are you on Instagram as well?
Yes. I do use Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. All right, Jason, what's cool about you?
Well, I think one of the cool experiences I've had is not only am I a dual citizen, spent almost 10 years in New Zealand, but I also lived in the Czech Republic for a number of years, and I speak Czech. So I wondered, Edith, actually, like with your name, I thought, is she from? No.
Hungarian.
Oh, Hungarian. All right. Well, I have been to Budapest. So I do speak 3 languages, as you mentioned. Wow. Up at the top. So I'm a German, Czech, and English, and a little bit of Maori, but not a whole lot. And what I've got coming up is, through COVID, I had to innovate myself, and so instead of my speaking calendar got wiped clean. So I came up with an offer for people who are experts, but they don't know how to turn that into an enterprise. So an example might be, like a person who works internally as, say, a finance officer, and they work in a big corporation and they run the SAP program and help run reports. And so they have a depth of knowledge in finance, but they might not know how to get contracts, get leads, do the sales, write proposals, get clients, use those clients to get referrals, to get more, like what tentpole assets do they need for their content. So I help people build all the stuff that they'll need around their area of expertise to accelerate their growth. And we start from their end point. So what do you want? I mean, not everybody's goal is to be Tony Robbins, right? And like some people's goal is 75K a year. Well, if that's the goal, let's work backwards from that to get to that goal. If the goal is $1 million a year, let's work backwards from that goal to get to that goal. So through COVID, I actually have done better than I've ever done. So so I'm coaching several people around the world, and I've picked up a few corporate clients as well.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that. I think it's so important that we shine the light on people that are doing well, because it's easy to think, oh, everyone's struggling, no one has money and whatever. But there are people that it's time to pivot. It's time for them to evolve. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle, obviously, to run a business or an enterprise. So it's valuable work that you're doing. So yay, I love celebrating that you're having success, and obviously your positive mindset. When your calendar got completely wiped, you're like, well, I'm going to use my skills in a different area. Yeah.
And sometimes you have, and the other thing I did too is I didn't just rely on this new coaching offer either. I was like, well, an innovator has to be ready you have to be ready for several directions. You don't know which one's going to take. So yeah. I also went and got my insurance license, because by law, you have to have insurance on several things in your life. And if you're going to have to buy it, you might as well buy it from someone you like. So that was my fallback, right? So it's not just about having the new idea. It's probably better to have several ideas.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, how can people find you online?
So the best way is either connect through LinkedIn or through Facebook. Those are the ones I use most and where my clients tend to hang out most. I have Instagram and some others, and I have a YouTube channel. Don't utilize those as much, but I'm usually offering once or twice a month. I have free webinars that people can tap into and get content about building a business and different aspects of it. So sometimes it's relationship stuff, sometimes it's sales stuff, sometimes it's how do I run the business kinds of things. And then I've also got a podcast called The Shift Show, which is about the mess of innovation. And so I interview people about their favorite failures and explore, like, what did you do that totally blew up that we can all learn from?
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I love that too.
Yeah. So, the latest one just came out today. Is with, so if you've ever seen wheelchair rugby, or in the vernacular, it's called murder ball. And so I just interviewed the gold medal captain of the U.S. Wheelchair rugby team, and that's the latest episode that came out today. So you can find that where all fine podcasts are found.
Amazing. Very good. I didn't know that. So you always learn something new when you have someone on your live stream. That's amazing. All right, Edit, what about you? What's cool about you? What's coming up?
Well, I'm a very adventurous soul, so I love travel. So this COVID situation is not very good for me, because I love going to places like the Galapagos, do the Inca Trail, go to wild areas in India. So it will take me a while before I can get back into that part of my adventure. But of course, my biggest skill is speaking Hungarian, which is very, very difficult. If anybody understands languages, Hungarian is one of the most difficult after Sanskrit. So that's my big skill. But adventures and going to wild and wonderful places, that's my other one, which we are planning, but I'm not sure when we can actually do it again, but we will, I know we will. And I know we are sort of getting to the end. Because of the nature of what I do and the topics people need to discuss, the best way probably for people to get hold of me is through email or direct message me through Facebook, so edit@asls.nz, or through my website, which is www.activesexlife.net. There's a connect page there. I am on LinkedIn as well, which I use not as much as I should probably, and I do not have Instagram. The area of my work is probably not the best for Insta. I could be convinced otherwise, but most people find emailing me or text messaging me is the best. Phone calls are a bit difficult in my world because I'm in session, so I cannot answer phone calls. And for the people who are listening to this, I have an offer of $20 off for online sessions because what I found through this COVID, that all people who started new with me had to be online, of course, because I couldn't see them in person. And they were very surprised how effective it was to work online. So if anybody would mention Up Your Brave, they get $20 off at the first session straight away.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Everybody's doing Zoom now, aren't they? Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, you guys. So, what's cool about me, I'll mention, if you didn't see my Facebook posts, I went skiing in the holidays. I'm not a skier, even though I'm Canadian. I am, and it was a big deal because for me, I was like, oh, well, like I have a bad back, so I can't ski. And so I kind of kept falling into this, I can't ski because I've got this bad back. But then, my husband was like, my friend loaned me the gear. And my husband was like, are you going to ski with us? And I asked my dad, he's a surgeon. He's like, you're actually fine. I'm like, okay. So I upped my own brave and went skiing. But what's cool about this situation is I was skiing with my daughter, who's 13, and my mom, who's 73, and me at the same time. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, this is pretty special. Like I did not see this coming because I wasn't going to ski because I'm not a skier. But we were skiing together, and it was pretty awesome. It was pretty incredible. So that's pretty cool. What else is coming up, you guys, is later on this week, I'm going to be interviewing Jackie from Your Parent Journey. We're going to be talking more and more about love and relationships. I had a chat with her the other day, and she uses the term co-parent. She doesn't call him her ex-husband. She calls him her co-parent, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, we've all heard of co-parenting, but she just thought, the ex, it's just got such a negative connotation. So that was kind of interesting. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. And so that's exciting. That's what's coming up. And for those of you that are watching, anyone that considers themselves to be a speaker, an aspiring speaker, or an expert, definitely get in touch with me because I've got the doors open at the moment to my Amplify membership, which basically helps people to up their brave on stage, screen, and media. So you can find out more from me on that. Thank you so much to my beautiful guests. I'll just pop you over to the side and we'll say farewell. Thanks so much, you guys, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, amazing. Thank you for you guys joining us today. Definitely go ahead and comment. Let us know what is one thing, one takeaway that you're going to take action on based on the discussion we had today. And of course, as always, there's always so much knowledge in the room. If you've got a tip or you've got an insight on how to keep the love alive with romance or love and relationships, then we want to hear about it too. So definitely share that in a comment. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Until then, remember to up your brave, say what you want, and make it happen. See you.